Another Nigerian is killed in a foreign land. This is one too many. How can the Nigerian government protect its citizens abroad and ensure that justice is served? And former President Olusegun Obasanjo says prayer, praise, and absolute faith in God is the way forward in building or rebuilding Nigeria. Is he being serious or sarcastic? This is Plus Politics, and I am Maryann Okon. The chairman Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike has demanded a probe into the death of a Nigerian pastor, Joseph Nwajueze, in China. But all these probes, have they produced results? Well, I am being joined in the studio by Sam Adeleke, he's a political analyst. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you.
As we delve into this conversation. So, this is one out of so many Nigerians. In fact, it's like the month of June, July, and August have been months of reporting the deaths of Nigerians from different parts of the country. And not to in any way make one life look more important than the other, the insurance boss who went for an international event was strangled, according to reports, in her hotel
Not even on the
room.
streets of Johannesburg.
Exactly. So I'm wondering, these deaths, is there something about Nigeria that spells death, or are we weak so much so that we have become a target? I'm trying to understand why, we're being targeted everywhere, including Ghana.
I think that we should also not isolate Nigeria as a separate case.
Well, we are Nigerians. We worry about Nigerians.
Well, right. Having said that, I think that the response of the chairman of the Diaspora Commission is in order. But to be honest, from what you said, I think we should also go the extra mile, because this appears to be inconclusive deaths that they will just issue statements, and that appears to be the end of it. Interestingly, Nigeria has the upper hand in all of this in terms of diplomatic engagements. For example, South Africa, China, these are two nations that have massive investments in Nigeria. My company happened to work with some Chinese companies that are just establishing their industries in Lagos, and these guys are using and employing Nigerians and pumping a lot of money. So you can imagine when a country knows that you have a lot of stake in a country, and then you, the receiving end, where your citizens are not being treated well in their own country, there should be some diplomatic stamina or gra-gra, so to speak, that should be pulled. Because
but do we have that, in your own words? Do we have the gra-gra?
No, we don't. Because even in our own country, our citizens are not even catered for properly. We don't even value the human life in Nigeria, how much more those outside of Nigeria. So I think that the Diaspora Commission chairman, whose work is majorly to cater for Nigerians outside Nigeria, should go the extra mile, should display some muscle, show some strength, make some declarations that even though the death has occurred, it cannot be reversed, but these investigations should be conclusive.
Is that just her job? Yes, she's a special advisor or something. But we also have the Foreign Affairs Minister, this also falls under his purview.
As of now, we don't have any minister. It's been 1 month after screening, and we do not have
before now,
ministers.
Before we became a ministerless country, we had a foreign minister.
Yes,
in fact, we do not necessarily need a minister, because we have a Foreign Affairs Ministry with people and permanent secretaries who work year in, year out.
As a matter of fact, we have foreign missions in each of these countries. We have either the consulates or the high commissioner.
Excluding the one that we have been pursued out of. I'm trying to make a point here. Should there not be an interface? Does it just amount to Abike coming on TV to have those press conferences and say we're in talks? Yes, the president recently has said he's going to be in talks with the South African President Ramaphosa in October, but that's a long time. Let's paint a picture. Let's say this was a US or a UK citizen, or even a Russian citizen. Do you think would still be dragging our feet on this matter? And why do you think so?
It is simply a function of the leadership that we have, because everything rises and falls on leadership. Like you said, this cannot also be faulted on a local government chairman or a governor, because right now the conversation is now drifting from the presidency. People are saying, don't blame the president only. Look at other people working with him. But this solely lies, like you said, at the table of the foreign affairs minister in the presidency. So this shows that presidential might needs to be displayed. Now, we all know how Africa felt when we withheld our assent to the African Trade Charter. Why can't we do such when human lives are involved? Why do we only flex muscles and talk so much and breathe out fire from our nostrils when telecommunication companies or other companies do not pay taxes? Why can't we flex such muscles when human lives are being desecrated, especially when it's without trace or without cause? So I do think that the presidency needs to wake up and start valuing and start putting a lot of value and put a lot of premium, that's the word, on the life of the Nigerian, outside and within, and start flexing your diplomatic muscles. We have it.
Premium. Could that also be a reflection of how the world sees us? The average Nigerian is not necessarily respected anywhere in the world because of how the world sees us. The world sees how we're being treated even within the borders of our country. For example, Nigerians were dragged in the streets on the day that they said there should not be a protest. Nigerians are killed by unknown gunmen who come from outside the country, who they claim come from outside the country, and we don't do anything about it. Nigerians are killed and battered on election days. So,
oh, my Nigeria.
Could this be the reason why we probably are not respected in the Committee of States?
You have said it all. But interestingly, I have traveled to an extent. At least I've been to like 9 countries and counting, and I can have a feel, and I do have a feel of how the world perceive Nigeria, and Nigerians especially. The world perceive Nigerians as people who are loud. We hustle a lot. We have that domineering spirit. We are always all over the place wherever we go. And interestingly, now, they also appreciate the fact that we are creative with our music and all that. Now, for example, in the UK, in the US, a large percentage of the medical profession is occupied or being occupied by Nigerians. Now, with all these positive sides, we are also not even allowed to receive payments on some global platforms because some Nigerians have painted the country black because of online fraud. Now, Nigerians, our lives, are story of our lives. Oh my God, it's a mixed bag. But despite that, I also believe that regardless of how you as a citizen might treat yourself or the way you might carry yourself, the government still plays the highest responsibility to ensure that regardless of how your people are being treated, you should defend them. Regardless, at home and abroad. Very important. Because perception of Nigeria is a mixed bag, to be honest.
Still talking about perceiving us, or how the world perceives us.
Yes.
I know that image laundry is very bad, using that term. So I'm going to rephrase. Are our governments and our leaders and all the missions that we have across the world doing anything to redeem our image on the international scene? I'm asking this because one of our foreign missions have been evicted. Some of them have also shut down because they're unable to, run those missions. And of course, we're still yet to get explanations as to why that is. So when we're sitting on the table and claiming that we're the big brother of Africa or we go for the G12, do you think that we're respected, or or the businesses people do is to better our laws, or it's just because they have to relate with us, hence the reason why they keep those relations, whether be it on trade or on any other front?
There is no national effort to launder the image of the nation properly. For example, there is a national campaign in Rwanda called Visit Rwanda, which is on the jersey of Arsenal. There is a national campaign by South Africa, by Kenya, by other countries in the continent. But Nigeria does not have a national campaign.
We used to have one.
We used to have Good People, Great Nation, which died with
the Jonathan administration.
Now that continuity needs to happen. And if not, something new has to come up. It has to be, because right now people are calling for the Sovereign National Conference again. There's an agitation for people to come together to really, really negotiate the terms of existence. So while we wait for that, because that might be an El Dorado in this administration, it's important that the people saddled with their responsibility, the tourism minister or the ministry, the culture ministry, the people who have that aspect of Nigeria that has not yet been tainted, because people still value our music so much. Like we've had our own Burna Boy play at some of the biggest stages globally. You know, MTV, Jimmy Fallon. You know,
it was recently on Trevor Noah's show.
Exactly. You know, so those are the guys that are actually laundering the image of Nigeria, and we need to acknowledge that. But there has been no government backing. So I do think that while that is being done, it's also important that the government makes efforts. So while the musicians and the creative arts industry are doing their bits, government should also have a national effort.
Should we be telling government what to do in this regard? Because it makes it sound like they don't know. It's like sending a child somewhere. So you just go there. When you see somebody, tell them that I sent you. As opposed to someone who comes to you and says, I want to do a job. Give me the mandate. It means that you know what you are up for, but in fact, should we be telling them?
No, we shouldn't. Nigeria's case is an interesting irony, because government should actually serve the people. We should hold the governments accountable on a daily basis. There should be a proper and a consistent civic engagement. But here, if you have a criticism of the government, you are speaking its speech.
I was about to ask, are there avenues that we can really hold these governments accountable? Because some people would tell you that these people were not necessarily voted in by the people.
And that is the elephant in the room. They tell you that, see, whatever right you have to criticize or to make comments has been exchanged for 500 naira at the polling units. So you have sold away your rights for the next 4 years for every cash you've collected, which should not be so. So for those of us who did not collect that cash, for those of us who didn't collect bags of rice or gari for election purposes, we must not be silenced. Our voice must be consistently out there to hold the government accountable.
How? You haven't answered my question. Our voices have to be out there. How?
Really?
How do
Maryann?
you get...
There is a man who led a protest.
It's my job to ask you the question, so you answer my question.
Well,
how do we get our voices out there? How do we get these people's attention? Because it seems like we're unable to do that.
The most powerful voice is social media, because the government has been jittery with a recent move by some group of Nigerians to voice out the fact that there is need for a revolutionary change, even though not in government, but in the way things are done. And this was a social media campaign that led into the DSS bugging into the room of the organizer overnight. So if that is very effective, then Nigerians should start looking at the channels that actually stir the honest nest. Where are those channels that when you talk, who are the people that you can engage? Because if I say something, it's different from when an Obasanjo says something, the same thing. You know, so it is not even so much about what is being said, but who is saying it. That means we should start engaging people whose voices will be heard, people whose letters will be paid attention to, people who are national figures, people who are global icons, to really take up the mandates or the job of speaking for the average man on the streets. That is the way to go.
And these deaths and the investigations that we keep hearing, you know, when I was growing up, there's a word I heard and I'm still hearing it. We're on top of the matter. How on top of the matter are we to get justice for not just the dead, but the families of these people? Because most of these children, like the children in South Africa or Ghana, went to school, they went to get an education. And some of these people are earning an honest living. Where is the justice? And how on top of the matter are they? We
are actually on top of the bottom of the matter. We are not anywhere near the top. Simply because I don't like going back memory lane. It's heartbreaking. For example, we've not solved the murder of a assistant attorney general that was murdered. How much more? Just a few weeks ago, the daughter of the elder statesman, Mr. Fasorot in Ondo State, we've not solved the murder. We only had a national reunion in which all the big wigs were attending the funeral, when there should have been a hot pursuit on live TV until
the vice president visited.
Exactly.
The
So we are good with such optics, commiserating, sending delegation, organizing state
I'm
burials.
going to play the devil's advocate on this one. Should the presidency be investigating? We have security agencies.
What they should have done is at that night, because this apparently is a high-profile figure, because we apparently pay attention to the high-profile figures than the average Nigerian. There should have been a hot pursuit of those bandits that night, probably on live TV. So the way they cover live shows, there should have been a pursuit until people are arrested.
TV. Where have you ever seen a hot pursuit on live TV in Nigeria? Maybe you're watching too much TV. I think it's Hollywood.
But Maryann, the concept is that instead of we organizing burials and visitations and commiserating with the victim's family, we should be talking about, by 10 p.m. there was a hot pursuit. By 11 p.m. this was up. By the following day, people should be paraded that our suspects caught from last night's robbery. We live in a country in which there are no consequences. There's impunity. Once people die, they say, Amu Oloni, that means it is God's doing. No! We should stop giving excuses for our ineptitude, for inability to solve our problems. We should stop blaming the third party and saying that once a person has died, it's appointed for a man to die once, judgment. Excuse you. So, those who committed it, they should also go and meet the maker and explain to him. We should stop excusing, incompetence.
The world all over is trying to cut off the death penalty.
But Trump had just introduced it.
And let people...
The most advanced nation in the world.
...do penance for these acts. But not to move away from our conversation. We also are divided on justice here, because if we say we need justice on these people who have died, we need investigations, or you're saying for Fashoranti, a lot of people will say, well, there's a lot of people, farmers who've been killed in the Middle Belt. Who's been investigating? There are people who have been killed through kidnapping on that same highway. Who investigated? There are also people who will say, well, my child, the woman in London, the family in London, who their 2 sons or 3 sons died on the same day by a knife stabbing in the UK. Who's getting justice for them? So does this mean that the average Nigerian is on his or her own? And it makes me ask the question, why do we have a government if it is to your tent, O Israel?
In fact, state governors and local government chairmen are telling people to defend themselves. That is the state we've gotten into, because for a newspaper to allege, a national newspaper, to report that the DPO had to be ransomed, it shows that we've gotten to a point whereby we need to have a national conversation. That's what really is happening in the hierarchy of power.
We've had so many conversations. What have those conversations actually birthed? We've had many conversations.
It has birthed a mini revolution that was stabbed and killed at inception. Now, that is why we must not give up, because, see, it is better to talk than to go to war. Peace is cheaper than war, and we must not stop talking.
Nobody's asking for war.
No,
but not physical war. All of the conversations we've had, all of the dialogues and the national confabs and the this and that, they all are gathering dust. The blue papers and the communiques, they're all gathering dust. No action has been taken. And we've been talking, and the average Nigerian likes the sound of his or her voice.
Could it also be that Nigerians are okay?
We need to see action plans. Where are these plans?
But these plans are not coming forth. As at now, we do not even have a national roadmap for the next 4 years.
So why do we continue talking? Is there not a saying that if you keep doing something the same way, hoping for a change, it means that you're a mad person?
That's correct. That's correct.
So, now, are there no other avenues to explore?
The other avenues to explore, ladies and gentlemen, oh my God, is to take to the streets the way the Hong Kong people. Those guys, they are the country of the year. They are the men and women of the year. These guys occupy the streets, occupy the airports, occupy the police headquarters peacefully. And of course, some pocket of violence took place. But then Nigerians, I think Nigerians are actually okay with what is happening, because people keep saying that we'll get to the point where we're being pushed to the wall, and push has come to shove, and then we will, leave whatever we are doing and demand for a change. If not, nobody is going back home. Because right now,
but have we not created more spaces in the world for ourselves to get comfy? Hence the reason why we're not pushing back.
Well, yes, and simply because we also thrive on hope. You know, we are being sold that's trauma. That's that trauma. I call it a traumatic thing. That it go better. That don't worry. It will be well with Nigeria. Let's keep praying. Let's keep interceding. God has a plan. Obasanjo also said something just this past.
We will be talking about
get to that point.
Yeah.
You know, we don't look inwards and appreciate the fact that our destiny lies in our hands. So I think until we get to the point whereby every citizen, led by icons, led by people who will volunteer to lead the populace, to make demands and to sit it out until something is done, then we will not have the change we are looking for. Well,
Sama Deleke, political analyst, is going to be here with me right after the break because the conversation continues about praise, worship, and faith. And these are the words of the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. When we come back, we'll find out what that is about.